Juggalos and Juggalettes, it's your big homie Big Ian coming at you live and direct from Charlottesville, Virginia at the Jefferson Theater with a first ever Faygoluvers interview with Immortal Technique. Tech, some news recently popped up where you came across our radar. Photograph popped up of you and Tech N9ne backstage at the Paid Dues Festival. Tech is somebody who we, do a lot of coverage over at Faygoluvers. And I know that there are a lot of people who are fans of yours and his and are curious to know if there's ever a chance that the two of you would work together.
It's funny, we were actually going to do a tour together a couple of years ago, except they needed someone to do the entire thing, and I was already pre-scheduled to be in Europe, maybe about like 3 weeks or 4 weeks into the tour. So I was like, yo, I can do like half of it. They were like, or a few days, and they were like, no, we want someone to do the whole thing. So we had kicked around ideas of stuff. We had talked, and I've definitely built with his people, and I see he runs a very tight ship. And I think any independent artist could learn a lot from watching people like Tech N9ne, people like Atmosphere, individuals who not just have the rap part of this down, but the business and how they treat people. You know what I mean? You can see specifically that somebody really built their brand by not treating average people like shit. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times, a lot of artists have this Louis the 16th attitude, like, who the fuck are you? And it's more like, that person is just like me. That's a potential friend. That's an ally. That's somebody that could help promote me and put my music out there. So, I'm definitely in great company when I'm around people like that. So I look forward to hopefully doing something with them. I'll call them in a couple days or some shit like that when I get off tour, and we'll chop it up, and hopefully something will happen.
There was also an article that popped up recently about you, Tech N9ne, and Everlast, where you guys were going to be starring in a movie together. There were very few details released. What can you tell us about that?
Y'all trying to get me in trouble right now. There's been talk of this. I can't really release any details right now, but it's definitely an idea that was floated to me that I liked a lot. The script was interesting, and there was just some small minor details that I needed to change around, but it was definitely an idea that I was very open to, and I think that it's going to be, a pretty good story.
Okay, nothing locked in concrete, but definitely still up in the air and viable.
It's probably going to happen.
Okay. Next thing I wanted to ask you was a broader question, which is, in the last few years, we've seen more modern political hip-hop, more in the mainstream, a good example of which being Lupe Fiasco. Do you have an opinion, one way or the other, about this new form of mainstream political hip-hop?
Well, I think that the way that it's gotten to have a lot of light is by it not being as extreme in terms of historical facts and specifics, but a broader concept that says this is wrong, or this sort of mentality doesn't get us anywhere. And I think that when people try to explore things like that, they have a lot more success with mainstream society than if they want to get real nitpicky and specific. And I'm not saying that I haven't done anything that's broad reaching, but the majority of the work I do is very specifically tailored to a concept or something that's talked about. It's almost like you're reading a book and every song is a different chapter. It's never like, remember in the 90s you had songs where one rapper had like the beginning of a story and then the next rapper's verse was not about that at all, so it's like, when the fuck is the story? When is the story gonna end? No, that's really not what happens here. We've mastered writing years ago. So I think that to me, it's just a question of them being in a more independent frame of mind. So while Lupe may not be a quote-unquote independent artist in that respect, he's signed to a major label, he definitely does have an independent mentality. You know what I mean? He definitely has someone who's like, hey man, you know what? I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say. And whether it's here in an interview or whether it's at the Obama fucking, reception for whatever. I can do nothing but respect that, and I hope some of these younger cats, I think there was another song by a dude, Absol, which I thought was really interesting. But I mean, my hat's off to them. I want these young brothers to keep doing this and keep realizing that they don't have to water us down for us to make sense. People are already gonna prejudge hip hop fans like, the other forms of music aren't fucked up. Like they'll come to a hip hop show, or they'll come to some shit that happens in the hood, or even something like the gathering of the Juggalos, and they'll be like, oh man, look how these people are doing it. But then go to a country music festival. Somebody's motorcycle gang kills somebody at this shit. Somebody's always getting shot with a boot gun or something, you know what I mean? It's crazy. My peoples that work production there tell me all the time that there's so much drama, stabbings every night, and yet they get off on some old pro-American shit because, everybody's waving a fucking flag or something, and yet hip-hop, that the people who participate in it actually, their ancestors who were slaves built America too, they have to be looked at like we're savages or something. No, we're all human beings and we're all just as fucked up as everybody else. Just because you hide your drug addiction doesn't make you better. And if anything, it makes you worse. Just because you hide the way you are, it doesn't make you better than anybody. I never looked at it that way. I'm always down to come and do and rock whatever shows, and I'm always going to do it with the same type of energy, the same type of wild, aggressive power. Whether it is some rock the bell shit, whether it is a smaller show here in Charlottesville, or whether I'm at the gathering of Juggalos. Somebody actually invited me to that shit one time, and it was just a scheduling conflict. But I would love to do it, man. I'll come out there and tear it up. I don't give a shit. We'll be throwing water and fucking throwing shorties over the shoulder. We out.
Stage diving.
Right, barbarian Viking shit. Fuck it, man. Let's do it.
Well, you actually just came out and answered my next question there. It's because in the past few years there have been a lot of artists from the political or lyrical side of the underground being invited and being well received at the gathering. Slain, La Copa Nostra, Swollen Members have large Juggalo fan bases, and I know you do as well. And I know that there are thousands of Juggalos who would love to see you perform at the gathering. And it's like, is there? Is that something that?
Sure. We were gonna do it in 2012. It was just a scheduling conflict.
Okay.
Somebody had definitely reached out to the agency group, and they were like, "Yo, can we get him? Is he crazy? Does he have a list of diva demands?" Not at all. I'm just gonna call show up with me and my peoples, hook us up, we'll tear it down. G.I. Joe or Static or whoever the fuck is there, they're gonna show you real DJing. We're gonna show you real lyricism, and it's gonna be a complete hip hop show. Feelings are gonna be hurt. People are going to be offended, but then what the fuck are we here to do? We're here to motivate individuals to think clearly. Someone's going to come out of their weed coma and realize that the world is really, savable. Not that the world is fucked up beyond repair, because you haven't come to any epiphany telling me that. You've come to an epiphany by telling me, hey man, I'm going to go out there and change my life. Or you look at me and you see a bum, but I got a job and I got 3 kids that I take care of, and who the fuck are you to say anything? So it's what it is, I'm willing to go anywhere. Third world countries, whatever the fuck it be, I'm there. I'll rock it. There's a mic, there's a stage, there's a DJ setup. It's going down.
Tech, this is the last question I got for you. You are a very highly discussed artist in hip-hop because of your political message. Something that for the last 10 years has been brought up in group of friends, rap circle, everywhere talks about the subject matter of your music, what it means, what it's doing, the importance of your music. And it seems that whenever this conversation happens, it seems like there's always one pessimist in the group who seems to want to say that it doesn't make a difference or that it isn't important or, fill in the blank about your message, your movement. What do you have to say to those naysayers that say these things?
I just want to tell those naysayers, thank you for continuously saying my name again and again and again. Thank you for mentioning me on Twitter or talking about me on Facebook, because you're just helping me spread the word. If you're at a point in your life where you're still cynical about something, or if you listen to my music and you say to yourself, oh, I know all that already, then how come you haven't changed your life? You can't sit here and tell me you're doing this independently because you quote unquote couldn't hack it in the mainstream. No, I make more money than a lot of niggas in the mainstream. I understand that business better than you could potentially pretend to. So it's not a question of wanting to be a part of a world or not. The people who I know who are in independent music said, hey man, listen, I don't feel like putting on a mask and pretending to be somebody else to sell myself. I want to be me. I don't want to have to pretend to be an individual I'm not just to fit in with other people. I'd rather just be loved or hated for me. So I can't see why somebody would come out their face and be like, oh man, if it's personal taste, whatever. I'm not for everybody. The music I make is definitely very graphic, very hardcore. But to say that it's never made a difference, I think is a lie. Because I think anything can make a difference in somebody's life. Y'all doing this camera work, you doing the interviews, you could potentially say something to somebody tomorrow who's struggling with drug addiction, you know what I mean? Or struggling with the abuse they suffered as a child. And you say to them, hey man, why do you think this shit is your fault? Or hey baby, why do you think this is your fault? You was 4 years old when this shit happened. How the fuck could you have said anything? How did you agree to any of these? You know, you can't keep blaming yourself for shit that's not your problem. You just changed somebody's fucking life without even thinking about it. Just the same way you can drive down the street right now, you can hit an old person, kill them, and keep on going, and no one's ever gonna know. You changed somebody's life. Well, you did it out of selfishness, fear, and malice. However, when you change someone's life for the positive, that has reverberations. That means that you have that type of energy around you. And that means that something positive is coming back to you. So I tell people all the time, don't be afraid to speak your mind. Don't be afraid to change somebody's life. And you know what? More important than having, or equally important as having the right people like you, it's also important to have the right people hate you. Because if that one pessimist is in the crowd that's known for being Eeyore for Winnie the Pooh, that doesn't like anything, you know what I mean? The fuck are you gonna like? You know, not everybody wants to hear everything at the same time. Sometimes people don't want to hear trap music. That's their thing. All right, but what about when your mama dies? You gonna be bumping that in the car? You gonna be blasting that at her fucking funeral? Come on, man. You want to hear something introspective? What if when you get married? Pimps up, hoes down? That's what you think your wife's father wants to hear? Don't get your dick blown off. You know what I mean? Act like a man. But again, I appreciate you very much. Saying my name on Twitter, on Facebook, or in any private or public conversation, because all you're doing is helping me spread the word. Thank you.
Tech, that's all the questions I've got for you tonight. Is there anything else you'd like to say to all your Juggalo and Juggalette fans listening to this right now?
Just continue to be yourself, man. And anybody who has a judgment about life, just remember, they're not God, so they don't have the right to judge you. You know, and I appreciate all the support. ViperRecords.com, get at me, at Immortal Tech. And I told you, if you invite me to the gathering of the Juggalos, I don't have no anxiety disorder, nigga. I'm not gonna be hiding behind stage. I'll be walking through the crowd, snatching L's out your hands, getting high out my mind, rolling with y'all, signing whatever the fuck y'all got after the show. I'm a man of the people. I love y'all. Peace.
A toast to the dead, for children with cancer and AIDS. A cure exists and you probably could have been saved. Sad to see medicine, divorce, morality, corporate home wreckers pimping up for salary. A toast to the dead, for those that have died today. The victims and those exonerated by DNA. The only thing worse than giving freedom to the guilty is killing the innocent and leaving your soul filthy. Immortal technique, remember me when I'm gone. I encrypted my lyrics to stay alive in a song, so you'll always